Alright, well I was wrong. The Graybar needle has a flat on the back, but the upper needle is the one that came out of the machine, and is the same length as the ones that came with it. And the bottom needle is a standard 15 by 1. So I will look. I may just readjust this machine to use a modern needle so that it's easier to get needles for it. But first we'll see about making it stitch and checking it over. I decided to dump out that this needle case, and that's the needle that was in the machine, and this is all the needles that were in there that were the same size as it. There were also these two that I think are 15 by 1, the standard size, and then 3 extra short needles that might be 12 by 1. So I'm glad I dumped this container and sorted it. But some of these needles are pretty rusty as well, so we'll take a look at that as we go. But right now, I need to figure out what to do about this very, very hard drive tire. Alright. So the regular tire that the whites use, or that I can put on a white rotary or whatever, doesn't have, or is too fat. This tire was a little conical, and this Graybar, which I think is a National Rotary, I'm not certain who made it, but the motor is built on the back here, so the adjustment is that the drive tire is cone shaped, and you just push the tire onto the shaft and tighten it to get enough friction on the wheel here. So to get this to be cone shaped, I am going to grab a file and some sandpaper, and I'm just going to run the motor with the pulley in place and shape it to the cone I need. Alright, so here's the old tire and the new one. I just fastened it on the end of the shaft here and pushed a file against it while it was turning. But in the course of doing that, I discovered that this motor is a little bit tetchy, so I'm gonna pull the brushes out here and see. Oh, that brush looks really nice. So maybe I've got to clean the commutator or something. Oh, I need a shorter. So yeah, the wiring on this is original and it's in good shape, so as long as I'm not harsh to it, it should be fine. That brush is also in pretty good shape, so we'll grab a bit of alcohol and run it down the brush hole on a Q-tip and see. Oh, this motor is really stiff turning. I bet these motor bearings are incredibly dry. It's also filthy in there, but we'll start with rubbing a little alcohol on the outside of this bearing here so that it soaks on inside, and This is a plain Japan finish, it looks like, so not. If it was shellac, then the alcohol on the Q-tip might be an issue, but. Oh yeah, even rubbing a dab of alcohol on this outer bearing really improved things. So we're gonna finish wiping our commutator through the brush hole, and then we'll get a little bit of oil on our bearings here, and I bet that is gonna dramatically improve our motor performance. Well, I'm going to keep wiping until I get a clean Q-tip out of there. Alright, let's pop the head off this Graybar. We dealt with the brushes, and I made a new tire for it. The bobbin winding tire is just a plain O-ring, so that at least is easy. Wipe the back side of this off. So this cover is pretty simple. There is a pin here for a tension release on this tensioner. And then it's got, this is where the take-up spring is for the tensioner, so that's interesting. I do see it collects grit in here, obviously, because that's a spot where a lot of thread rubs. Let's see. That's the spot that releases the tensioner. And there we go. And let's get a dab of oil in on our crank link here. There's an oil spot on top of the needle bar, but it doesn't hurt to get in there and get the crank properly. Now let's see. Since I got the tensioner out, let's take a look in there. We got a spring on here, the release washer, and then there's felt and, these two discs are stamped together. So, and did I just drop the spring underneath? I sure did. I just dropped the spring underneath. There, the spring came out of somewhere. Anyhow. So with these tension discs stamped together like a tire, I guess this thread must wrap around this tensioner, and then the pressure of the felt the pressure of the spring on that release disc with the felt is what must provide the tension. So, alright, we'll just stick our cap back on here. And that cap just goes there, and this must be the tension for the presser foot, okay. Or pressure for the presser foot, yeah. Alright, well, oh, and I popped the needle plate off to clean on the feed dogs, but they looked clean, so I guess with a new tire and everything, this machine might be almost ready to test. Okay, I am going to convert this Graybar to use modern 15x1 needles. And the conversion is super simple. I have the original needle laid out here. The eye is lined up with a modern 15x1 needle. And see how the shank is just very long? The needle is this roughly the same length. So I cut the stub off of a bad old needle, and I made a spacer, and I'm gonna glue that spacer into the groove of the needle bar above the needle clamp so that you'll be able to seat a modern needle in this machine and sew with it. And by gluing it in place, it'll hold, it'll stay put where it needs to, but you'll be able to remove it if in the future someone wants to go back to using the old style needles.